Hello, welcome to Quick Tips 12, and I had a question from somebody who was a little confused by multiple output functions, and here's an example of a multiple output function. Incidentally, these programs are available below for you to copy and paste, but essentially the question went something like this. I can see the function and I can see the various inputs, but why is it when we have an input, for example, like high, low, num, that apparently we're not assigning a value to? We're setting it to 0 initially in the variables, and then we're plotting it. Why does the plot look something like this? In other words, why isn't it just set to 0? And the answer to that is that these are actually outputs rather than inputs, at least in this case. And just let me demonstrate that in the function itself. So what this function has is a number of inputs. You could use this maybe as a sort of template, but the function itself doesn't do anything of any use. We have two numeric series, and that's, for example, like a price series, high, low, close, etc. Then we have a numeric simple. This is going to be we're calling it denominator, and we're going to use it as a denominator, so that stays the same. And then we're going to have a message, which also is like a string simple, so that will stay the same. And then we're going to have three outputs, and you can see those here. And we're going to calculate those outputs as follows. For the first one, we're going to be taking the price H, price L. These are the price series inputs we were just looking at up here, and we're going to divide them by this number here, the denominator. We're going to store that in this variable. Then for the next variable, we're just simply going to do an average of the open and close. And then for the third variable, which is a string variable, we're going to take a string which is fixed here, string returned from. Then we're going to be adding to that the message that we're getting from the input up here. So let's and then finally the quick tips function itself, we're going to be storing the time into that, and I've set arbitrary to 0 to the time value. So going back to the indicator calls this using the inputs, the high price series, the low price series, the 2, which is a constant, and this text here, indicator, this rather string constant indicator calling function, and then it gets returned these three variables here. And of course you could add more if you wish to. And what it does, it plots the first one, plots the second one, and then it prints value 1, which is the value returned by the function, which in the function we set to time, date, time, and then the return message. So what we would expect, for example, in the return message, we're feeding in an input text, an input string of indicator calling function. In the function, we're adding to that the string returned from. So what we should get is string returned from indicator calling function. So let's go back to the chart and see what we actually get. So these are the variables, and you can see they're not just being set to 0. And then in the print function, we'll see we've got the time actually twice, because we're getting time returned back from the function, then date, then time, just because we put t in the print thing. And then we've got the string that we expected, string returned from indicator calling function. So if we just go back to the function, you'll see that actually this function is returning 4 values. It's returning these output values, which look suspiciously and confusingly like inputs, but they're actually outputs in this case. And we get a value included here in the Quick Tips 12 function itself, which we've set to be equal to time, just for the sake of argument, but that could be something else, or it could be an error code, or whatever you need. Okay, well, hopefully that was useful. I hope if you do have questions, then please feel free to email me them. Thanks.